Hello, I'm Stacey Young and I'm the archaeologist for the State Park Service. Come on and let's go check out the excavations at Rose Hill. So this house site you can visit if you follow the nature trail here at Rose Hill. And you can see here the brick pile in the middle, which is where the chimney would have stood. And a lot of the rubble pile continues this way. So the chimney would have probably fallen this way when it fell. There are stones that outline where the foundation of the house was. They would have supported a wood frame structure and it would have been lifted off the ground. You can see sort of a mounded area which would have been covered by where the house was. And the pink flags that you see, that's where we excavated shovel tests. We are set up on a 5-meter interval grid, and we excavated shovel tests at each of the locations. And the shovel tests are small square holes about 1.5 feet wide. With those, we are looking for artifacts or changes in the soil that suggest that there were cultural activities there. And so each of the flags marks that location. If it has a little strip of flagging hanging off of it, that's where we had artifacts. And we did find artifacts in most of these shovel tests. Mostly what we were getting were nails, which indicate that the house was here. We did one of the holes that we excavated within the house. We had a glass marble. And so that's kind of interesting. It suggests that possibly children were living here because that was a game that they would have played. So we know that the house was here, but we don't necessarily know how the space was around the house was used. And so that was something that we were interested in. And with the shovel tests, can get an idea of if there are artifacts outside of the house. And you see a bunch of orange little flags over here. And this is where we actually did metal detecting to see if we could find a nail scatter that suggests possibly an outbuilding. Maybe there was an outhouse in this location. Maybe it was a little storage barn. So there were a lot of nails in this area that suggested a building might have been here. We also found mule shoes or horseshoes that suggested possibly, there might have been mules or horses here. So yeah, this is an interesting area over here. And as we've started to clear vegetation from the site, we discovered this sort of rectangular area that's outlined in brick. And we think this is probably a garden. And you can see there's a green plant that's starting to sprout here. And those might be, it could be garlic or it could be onions, but it's possible that it was planted here by the people that once lived here. And we've also noticed some mint and other things that are starting to grow. But yeah, the garden is kind of a special place because it gives us an idea that this is how the people chose to use the space around their house. And these are plants that they probably planted when they were living here. Let's go check out the active excavation site. We're at the active excavation site, and this is what we refer to as Tenant House Site 1, and it's not accessible to the public. So now is really the only time that you can visit. You'll notice this is similar to the other site. You see the brick chimney pile. There's a brick pile in the center where the chimney would have been. The stones that outline where the foundation would have stood. And this house is a little different than the other one. There seems to be an extension maybe where a porch was, an extension on this way, maybe where another little porch was. And this house site seems to be a little bit larger than the other house site. And you can see here also the flags where we excavated our shovel test locations on the 5-meter interval grid. And so with that, we're able to compare what we found at this site to what we found at the other house site to get an idea of if they were occupied at the same time, if the people living here had similar things as to the families that lived in the other location. And you see the areas in the back where people are working. And we have opened up larger excavation units there. And these locations were chosen because we were getting a lot of artifacts over there. And we were also getting a lot of nails and things that suggested that there could have been a building. So we opened up the larger units to further explore that. And those locations are outside of the house. And so it'll give us an idea of how the families that lived here were using the space around their house. We know that there were roadways that came in on this side and one that came through here. So how was that area of was it a yard area? How was it used? So one of the reasons that we're doing more work here is because we want to get a better understanding of when these houses were first constructed and when they were abandoned. We don't have a good map that shows what Rose Hill Plantation looked like. Where were the houses for the enslaved people? We know that after emancipation, many of the African American families stayed here and worked as contract laborers. We don't know if their housing locations changed. And so it's possible that this house was first occupied during that period after emancipation. It's also possible that these houses were occupied by sharecroppers or tenant laborers. So a lot of the artifacts that we've been finding are ceramic types that were produced from 1830s to the 1870s. We're also getting a lot of cut nails that suggest that it's possible that this house was built in the 19th century. So Sarah, Maddie, and Aiden are working in this excavation unit that we opened up next to the shovel test that encountered a possible feature at the bottom of it. And that feature was described as dark colored soils with charcoal, and they were getting a lot of artifacts. So we opened up the larger unit to see if the feature continued into this area and to get a better idea of what it might be. And this is a 1 meter by 1 meter unit that is situated on our grid. So yeah, they are about 35 centimeters below surface, which is pretty deep for this area. Generally, we would encounter clay subsoil at that level. And so the soil colors suggest that there was cultural activity here. But the unit is excavated in 10 centimeter levels, and everything that comes from the unit goes into the screen where they push the soils through and collect anything that doesn't fall through. And let's look at some of the things that they found. But we bag everything and it's labeled with the provenience information, so we know exactly where everything came from. It's bagged by level. And they are getting a lot of nails. And this is what old nails look like when you find them. And this is their interesting find bag. They've gotten a couple of buttons. And shoe eyelets. And that kind of thing that gives us an idea of the people who were here and what they wore. Have y'all gotten many ceramics? Yep. Mostly rusty nails in there. That's a lot of nails. So yeah, Sarah is carefully cutting the soils, and we'll put them in the screen. Give them some dirt to screen. Show us how you put the. Yeah, so all the soils excavated from the unit go through the screen. And this is John and Caroline, and they just opened this unit today, and so are just getting, looks like below the root mat. But this was another unit that we put it in this location because we were getting a lot of the cut nails, a lot of ceramic artifacts, and so we wanted to get a better idea of what these deposits were. And so they opened up this one by one over here. Y'all finding anything interesting? John got a button.
Yeah.
We
found some glass and nails.
Have y'all gotten any ceramics over here? She's found maybe one piece of whiteware ceramic. Yeah, so most of what they've been finding, it looks like, are nails, pieces of metal, a button, a clothing button, and one piece of whiteware ceramic. Let's see. Looks maybe some container glass, and here's the button that they found. You can see it's a little different than the one that was found in the unit over there. So yeah, all these artifacts are, the nails, indicate that there would have been a structure here. Container glass and buttons, those are things that you may find associated with a house. The container glass looks like probably, glass jars. Maybe the people who lived here were canning their own foods. Let's show some of these little nails. This is some of the nails that they found in this unit. Again, smaller than the ones that were over there. So these would have been used for something differently. So yeah, the crew that I'm working with is from SCIA, the South Carolina Institute of Archaeology and Anthropology, and we will be here until Friday doing the field work. And after the field work is completed, the artifacts will go back to SCIA, and they will be washing and sorting and cataloging each of the items to help us get a better understanding of what we found. And all that data will be synthesized into some sort of report. And we hope to be able to, do a presentation in the future here at the park to talk about what we found, and maybe use it in some sort of interpretive display or on the website. So thanks for joining us today, and you can stop by Charlestown Landing or Colonial Dorchester to check out our ongoing excavations there. See you in the parks.